Hey there everyone, it's AJ and it is time for another video, and in today's video we are delving into the world of Studio Ghibli. And I have decided that I wanted to jump into some traditional art, so I am donning out the watercolours and going into delve into that. Now, I wanted to do a piece because Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, is well known for his watercolour pieces. So to begin with this piece, what I did was I just did a light sort of wash with a blue. I can't remember the actual name of the blue that I used. Just so that you are aware, the watercolours that I am using are Daler Roundly Simply series. They're probably not an actual artist quality watercolour, but I think for practice and study, they're absolutely fine. And actually, I feel as though I did manage to get a decent sort of quality. Not necessarily quality, but I know I'd say I managed to get some decent colours. I really like this sort of aspect where I managed to get this sort of eerie type feel, and I kind of wish I maybe didn't. I went a sort of a different sort of way. I wanted to keep that maybe subtle sort of background. Maybe I'm not 100% sure. So with this, I know that I learned quite a fair bit from it, and I just really enjoyed the sort of overall process of just sitting back, relaxing, and having the just an audio book or something like that playing in the background. I think I was listening to a couple of podcasts whilst I was doing this piece as well, so I was just sort of doing that. I've kind of recently got into Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I've been watching it with a friend, so we've kind of, and then we found this buffering the Buffy Slayer or something like that. And we just decided to go and listen to that as well. And that's what I put on whilst I've been doing this. As I say, the subject of this is Arrietty from... Is it Arrietty? Yes, I think it is. From the Studio Ghibli series, which I mentioned before. And I just love this anime. Is it an anime? Is Studio Ghibli classed as an anime? I haven't... It is kind of an anime, but I wouldn't... I would kind of like maybe set it a little bit above anime in that sort of sense. I tend to think of anime as sort of what is it, like the sort of series that you get. Yes, you can get anime films, but I think anime is more a serial type thing. This is like an animated feature length film, so it's kind of a sort of anime, maybe a bit longer. Does that make sense? Moving on. So, yeah, I started adding a few details to the sort of trees and the backgrounds with some more focused watercolour. And I actually kind of, again, I just love this sort of process. The top left corner, as you will see going on, isn't the sort of greatest, but I think I learned quite a fair bit with that. And eventually I do move on to adding a bit of gouache, which you will see way later on in this time lapse. So yeah, I was kind of just playing around trying to figure out shadow. I was really struggling with a sort of darker watercolor, which obviously watercolor is a translucent basically water isn't an opaque medium, so it is quite difficult to do that. And really you only get sort of 3 layer of build-ups with watercolour, pushing it 4 maybe, depending on how light you did the first one. But so it does get a bit muddy in places, and I did overwork it in some way, which is why I got to a point where I was sort of like, okay, I'm going to have to stop. And towards the midway sort of point of this piece, I did kind of decide that I would not necessarily decide, but I was sort of like not really feeling it. I felt as though it was kind of going in the wrong direction. And yeah, so I have actually done another watercolor piece before in the past, probably 2017. Actually, I think I posted it on my Instagram page a few months ago. And I don't know, that was watercolour, and I'm going to splash it up in the corner here so that you can see it. Also, you can go check it out on my Instagram page if you wanted to. And I just kind of ended up sitting down with the watercolours, with the blank piece of paper, and I just I painted like this, and it is by far one of my best watercolour pieces. My second best watercolour piece is actually another Studio Ghibli study piece, which I did. And I really like that. And that actually goes on my wall in my Studio Ghibli corner. Again, I'll flash that up in the corner there for you as well, so that you can have a look at that. But I don't know, for some reason this time round it didn't click as well as the other time round. And this is sort of the main topic of this video, as it literally taken 5 minutes, not too bad to get into the sort of main topic of this video, which is sort of the blind sort of, what's the word? When you just kind of sit down, you get into the zone, but you're not really paying attention to what you've actually done in order to be able to reproduce what you've done in the past. So, for example, I sat down, did this piece, which I showed you just a moment ago, and I have no idea how I got from the blank piece of page to the final piece. And that is a bit of a not, yes, it's a great piece, but I've just not been able to really reproduce it. I know that somewhere along the line I kind of started off similar to this particular piece, but it wasn't the same. It's basically just not the same. And I don't know. I know that I applied thicker paint at some point, so I was kind of almost doing it directly from like tube mixes rather than actual watering it down fully, which kind of added to that sort of depth and stuff. But I don't know. It's one of those things where you want to try and replicate something and you just can't, because you just don't know how you got from point A to point B, if that makes sense. So I don't know. If you want to, leave me a thing in the comments and tell me, like, is this a named phenomenon or something like that? And yeah, because it's definitely not, I wouldn't consider talent. I'm using air quotes for the word talent because I've already done videos on what I believe talent to truly be. Because if it was talent and what people or society say talent is, I should be able to produce that whenever and whenever. So it was almost a sort of a zone type thing which you can maybe connect into every now and then. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some more studies, but I'm not going to do like such a grand study. I'm going to maybe look at doing trees and watercolor trees and things like that, and I'm going to have like a sort of bit of a study session. I might record it, I might not. It just depends on how I sort of feel, but I really want to do that. I love doing sort of woodland scenes, and I have to say this is one of my favorite scenes that I have actually done. I didn't get some of the depth that I wanted with that. I really wanted sort of Arrietty to appear big, but then like she's on this shoe, which you will see later on. It's almost like a Converse shoe. So she sat on this shoe, so it kind of gives that sort of scale. But again, I think with the depth that I've got in the background and foreground and things like that, I just didn't get. I didn't portray that as well. I think I needed to make the background a bit sort of smaller, or maybe even just the foot, the shoe and foot smaller in the foreground. It all sort of balances it out, and I didn't really go into like the rule of thirds and things like that as well. I don't know, the story that I was trying to tell with this piece hasn't come through as clearly as I would have liked. That's not to say that I'm not happy with the piece. And yeah, it's one of those things. I've learned so much doing this piece, and I've kind of like been more focused on learning how to do this piece, and it does get better towards the end. And I remember last night I'd finished painting it, I stepped away from it, and it was just, it didn't look as bad as what I originally thought of when I was looking at it. And that's another important thing that you've got to remember to do. If you've been staring at something for say half an hour, maybe even 15 minutes, I would go on to say, if you've been looking at something for like almost focused for 15 minutes, your perception of that thing kind of tends to get a bit warped and stuff. So if you see something like a couple of minutes in and you think, oh, it's not that great, that's what's going to continue to go on. And you think about when that happens, and it's just a case of getting out of that sort of slump, as it were, and basically getting on with it and doing the piece. So you've got to sort of, I don't know, I'd say if you feel as though your piece isn't looking great, or it's not looking as you were expecting it to do, that is the time to at least take a step back, go and, I don't know, pour yourself a glass of water, put the kettle on, fold a bit of laundry, whatever floats your boat, and just get your eyes away from it. The thing with traditional over digital art, which is what I've noticed, is you kind of break that up a lot when you flip the canvas around and stuff when you're doing digital art. So, I mean, even then, you've still got this sort of screen thing where you'd kind of like staring at a screen for however long. But I think it's easier to break that up. You can flip the canvas, rotate it, do all sorts with it. Whereas with traditional art, you kind of there. Sometimes it can be a bit of a hassle to do and flip over. But I think it is an important thing to sort of do, just to keep your thing fresh, really. I'm probably going to need to talk a little bit more about what I've done here. So, looking at it sort of here at this place, it's not a bad piece. And the only thing I would say is the building in there isn't great. But I mean, you can sit here and point out things that are not great about it. But I love trees. I love painting the sort of trees and that sort of thing. So I think my strong point really is the trees, and the little stones at the sort of front as well. I really like them. I actually remember looking at them and thinking to myself, oh, you know what? They actually do look like stone. And I mean, I didn't necessarily like for the colour of that as well. And they're actually quite good. And I remember choosing the colours for them, and I was like, did I actually choose the right colours? So at this point now, as you can see, I am starting to add a bit of white wash to it. Now this was because I felt that particularly the left-hand corner, it was very sort of flat, and I needed to lighten it up a bit more. So I used the white wash in order to like sort of just add a bit of, just to basically make it a bit lighter. And then I started putting just a bit of green on top of it. Now, I do believe most of these colours that I've used, I've actually mixed myself, apart from the red, obviously, because you can't mix red because it's a primary colour. But all of these colours were pretty much mixed, and I actually do really like the colours that I've used. I just think that my application of them could be improved, but overall, I believe that this is a great piece. So yeah, and I think the time lapse is coming to an end now, so we can obviously sort of wrap up this voiceover. Just stay tuned for the official sort of scraping. Is that the right word? Scraping. I'm not 100% sure. It's yeah. Towards the end, you will see the unpeeling of the masking tape. Here I'm doing the boots, the shoes, just doing that. I kind of towards this point I was sort of like, okay, I'm just gonna like get it done and thinking. I was contemplating whether or not to go on it another day, but I've decided that I think I learned enough from it not to warrant doing it. So, well, this is the end of the voiceover. So enjoy the unmasking taping. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. I am actually quite happy with the piece overall. And yeah, I learned so much doing this piece. I haven't done traditional, like sort of a traditional piece like this in a while, as I mentioned during the actual time lapse. But I really kind of just enjoyed being able to sit back, just let the paint and sort of do that sort of thing. I did actually do something similar before, which I'll probably which I have, as I say, splashed across over the course of the time lapse, just to show sort of thing what I managed to do. And I still kind of don't really understand how I managed to do that. It was kind of just one of those outlier sort of incredible sort of just sit down and do it type things. And yeah, that's the trouble sometimes when you go into that sort of zone. If you don't necessarily know what you've done, it kind of rocks it a little bit, and you kind of like really want to try and figure it out and get sort of almost reproduce that sort of thing, which is what I covered in this particular video. And yeah, if you did like this video, please hit that like button, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and also hit the bell notification to be notified as to when I post videos. Also, leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. Did you like this piece? Do you deal with traditional art yourself? And have you come across any techniques or anything that you find works and helps? So what I will say is, until next time, I'll see you later.